A silent language is carved into the ancient stones standing across our world. These are not just monuments, they are vessels of a profound message, a concept we call the songs of stone. In an age of digital noise, learning to decipher this silent communication offers a direct line to our shared human past. You will gain the ability to hear the stories whispered by pyramids and stone circles, transforming how you see history itself. Why would a civilization dedicate generations to moving mountains of rock? What urgent knowledge were they trying to preserve for eternity? We will travel from the deserts of Egypt to the remote islands of the Pacific, unlocking the secrets of celestial alignments and forgotten acoustic sciences. By the end, you will not just look at these structures, you will listen to them. What do you believe the greatest ancient builders wanted us to remember? This silent language is a symphony of meaning, but one you hear with your eyes and feel with your presence. The songs of stone are not melodies carried on the wind, but a profound communication system etched into the very fabric of ancient structures. It is a language without an alphabet, where the grammar is written in geometry, the vocabulary is carved from celestial events, and the punctuation is the precise placement of a single stone. Before the written word became our primary vessel for knowledge, humanity composed its greatest epics not on parchment, but on the landscape itself. Every architectural decision, from the staggering weight of a pyramid's blocks to the deliberate alignment of a doorway with the rising sun, was a deliberate sentence in a much larger story. These builders were not merely constructing shelters or tombs, they were creating permanent libraries designed to withstand the erosion of time and the fall of empires. The choice of material itself speaks volumes. A stone hauled from a distant quarry was not just a practical decision. It was a way of physically connecting the monument to a sacred mountain or a mythic place of origin, weaving geography directly into the narrative. The intricate spiral carved into a tomb wall is more than decoration. It might be a map of the soul's journey to the afterlife or a record of a complex astronomical cycle. This language was a global phenomenon. While the specific dialects differed, the fundamental principles were shared by cultures separated by vast oceans. The Maya builders of Central America and the megalithic engineers of Western Europe, who never could have met, both spoke this silent tongue. They both understood that by arranging massive stones in relation to the sun, moon, and stars, they were anchoring their world to the cosmos. They were writing their place in the universe into the unyielding surface of the earth. When you start to see these monuments as carefully composed manuscripts, your entire perspective shifts. A simple circle of standing stones transforms into a complex celestial calendar. A pyramid becomes a frozen ray of sunlight, a staircase connecting the earthly and the divine. The silent, weathered rock begins to whisper. It tells of kings who believed they were stars, of priests who tracked time with shadow and stone, and of a deep, universal human desire to leave a message that would echo for millennia. What urgent truths did they encode in these eternal forms, and are we finally learning how to listen? The most universal verse in this stone song is the one written in the movements of the sun and stars. For ancient cultures, the sky was not a distant spectacle but the very clock and calendar of their world. Their greatest architectural achievements were, first and foremost, sophisticated machines for reading the heavens. The Great Pyramid of Giza stands as a masterclass in this celestial engineering. Its four sides are aligned to the cardinal directions, north, south, east, and west, with an accuracy that seems almost impossible for its time, a deviation of less than a fraction of a single degree. This was not a happy accident. It was a deliberate act to anchor the pharaoh's eternal resting place to the unshakable order of the cosmos. Across the sea in Ireland, the passage tomb of Newgrange presents a different but equally profound astronomical feat. For most of the year, its long, narrow entrance passage lies in deep shadow. But on the morning of the winter solstice, the shortest day of the year, something miraculous happens. As the sun crests the horizon, a single, narrow beam of light penetrates a specially designed roof box above the entrance. This beam travels down the 60-foot passageway, piercing the inner chamber for precisely 17 minutes, illuminating ancient spiral carvings in a dramatic declaration of the sun's return. This was not just a light show, it was a profound symbol of rebirth, a way to mark the turning of the year and the promise that the barren winter would end. The survival of the community depended on knowing when to plant and when to harvest, and these stone calendars provided that essential, life-giving knowledge. This deep integration of architecture and astronomy reveals a fundamental truth about these builders. Their song was a hymn to cosmic order. They saw the predictable cycles of the stars and planets as evidence of a divine blueprint, and by building structures that mirrored these cycles, they were physically grounding their world, their kings, and their gods within that sacred order. The stones became permanent witnesses to celestial events, ensuring that the knowledge of solstices, equinoxes, and planetary movements would endure long after the builders themselves were dust. In an age without paper, this was the most durable library imaginable. The alignment of a doorway was a sentence, the angle of a corridor a paragraph, all telling the story of humanity's intimate and necessary connection to the heavens. But the language of stone is not only written in light and shadow. It also resonates with a power we can feel, a physical vibration that suggests these ancient architects understood something profound about the very nature of sound. But the celestial alignments of these monuments are only one layer of their complex composition. An even deeper rhythm pulses within their very dimensions, a silent symphony of shape and number. Ancient architects wove sacred geometry into their designs, using mathematical ratios and precise forms believed to echo the fundamental order of creation. This was not merely decoration. It was an attempt to build harmony into solid matter, to make stone sing with the same perfection observed in a seashell's spiral or the orbits of the planets. Consider the Great Pyramid of Giza once more. Its base perimeter, when divided by twice its height, yields a number startlingly close to pi, the mathematical constant that defines the relationship between a circle's circumference and its diameter. This was not a random result. It suggests the builders possessed a sophisticated understanding of mathematics, intentionally encoding this universal ratio into the pyramid's form. They were, in effect, squaring the circle, merging the perfection of a sphere with the stability of a square base, creating a symbol of cosmic unity. Across the Mediterranean, the Parthenon in Athens stands as a testament to another famous proportion, the golden ratio. This ratio, approximately 1.618 to 1, appears repeatedly in nature, from the arrangement of leaves on a stem to the spiral of a galaxy. The Greek architects designed the Parthenon's facade to embody this ratio, believing it created a visual harmony that was inherently pleasing to the eye and resonant with the natural world. The building was not just a temple to the goddess Athena. It was a physical prayer, its proportions a deliberate effort to reflect divine beauty in human craftsmanship. This language of shape extends beyond individual ratios to the symbols themselves. The circle, with no beginning and no end, represented eternity and the heavens. The square, with its 4 equal sides, symbolized the earth, the 4 cardinal directions, and the material world. When combined, as in a circle within a square or a pyramid pointing skyward, they illustrated the connection between the earthly and the divine. The spiral, carved into stones from Newgrange to ancient Crete, could represent the journey of the soul, the cyclical nature of time, or the unfolding of the cosmos itself. By understanding this sacred geometry, we begin to hear the mathematical melody within the stone. These monuments were not just placed in harmony with the cosmos. They were built from the same harmonic principles. The architects were composing a song of perfect proportions, a visual music intended to elevate the human spirit and create a space where one could feel connected to the underlying order of the universe. The stones themselves became tuning forks, resonating with a hidden frequency of creation. But what if this resonance was not just a metaphor? What if these ancient builders understood that their structures could physically interact with energy in ways we are only beginning to comprehend? Perhaps the most direct verses in these stone songs are the ones we can literally see, the symbols and figures carved with deliberate hands. Beyond the grand alignments and hidden geometries lies a rich vocabulary of images, a language of petroglyphs and iconography etched directly onto the rock. These carvings are the closest we get to hearing the ancient voices speak. In Egypt, towering temple walls are covered in hieroglyphs, a complex script where a vulture symbolizes motherhood and a scarab beetle represents rebirth and the sun's journey. These were not mere decorations. They were permanent records of divine rituals, royal decrees, and myths that defined a civilization's understanding of the world. Far to the north, on the windswept moors of the British Isles, Celtic artisans carved intricate spirals, labyrinths, and zigzag patterns into great standing stones. Without a written language as we know it, these symbols communicated core beliefs about the cycles of life, death, and regeneration, their meanings now partially lost to time. The massive stone stelae of the Maya in Central America present a dramatic example of this narrative power. Covered in elaborate carvings and glyphs, they tell the stories of powerful kings, their military victories, their divine right to rule, and their complex relationships with gods of rain, maize, and the underworld. Each figure, each symbol, was a word in a sprawling historical text written in stone. Similarly, the ancient rock art of Scandinavia, depicting elk, whales, and human-like figures, might record shamanic journeys into the spirit world or serve as hunting magic, an attempt to ensure a successful hunt by capturing the essence of the animal in a permanent form. Decoding this iconography is like learning a foreign language where the dictionary is the entire cultural context. The meaning of a spiral in Ireland is not the same as a spiral in the American Southwest. A carved serpent might represent a creator god in one culture and a symbol of danger in another. To understand the message, we must understand the world of the people who carved it. What did they fear? What did they worship? What stories did they tell their children around the fire? The petroglyphs are a direct line to those answers. They are the verses and stanzas of the song, waiting for patient translators to reveal the hopes, fears, and epic tales of our ancestors. But what happens when the stones themselves are arranged not just as a text, but as a powerful instrument? These principles of geometry and iconography create a silent visual harmony, but the song of stone can also be a physical vibration you feel in your bones. A fascinating modern field called Archaeoacoustics is now giving us the tools to literally listen to the echoes of the ancient world. This science explores how sound behaves within and around ancient structures, revealing that many monuments were not just meant to be seen, but to be heard. They were designed as giant musical instruments, their very stones tuned to specific frequencies. Deep underground on the island of Malta lies the hypogeum of Hal Saflieni, a labyrinthine temple carved from solid rock over 5,000 years ago. Within its central chamber, known as the Oracle Room, a deep male voice spoken into a specific niche creates a powerful, reverberating echo that seems to fill the entire complex. This is not a random acoustic quirk. The chamber was meticulously sculpted to produce this effect, likely to amplify the voice of a ritual speaker, making it sound otherworldly and divine, as if the stones themselves were speaking. Far across the Atlantic, the Mayan pyramid of Kukulkan at Chichen Itza presents another acoustic marvel. A hand clap at the base of the massive staircase produces an echo that does not sound like a simple reflection. Instead, it perfectly mimics the distinctive chirping call of the sacred Quetzal bird, a creature deeply associated with the feathered serpent god for whom the pyramid is named. This was surely intentional, a way to make the structure seem alive with the spirit of the deity during ceremonies. What were these sounds meant to achieve? Researchers suggest they could induce altered states of consciousness during rituals, the constant reverberation and specific frequencies helping shamans or priests enter trances. The soundscape would have transformed a ceremony into a multi-sensory experience, blurring the line between the human and the divine. The vibrations might have been felt as much as heard, a physical sensation of power resonating through the body. By using sensitive audio equipment to map these properties, we are no longer just looking at silent ruins. We are beginning to hear them as their builders intended, adding a profound and immersive layer to our understanding. The stones do not just tell a story, they sing it. And if we can hear the music of individual sites, what happens when we step back to listen to the entire planet? This deep resonance between structure and sound suggests a profound sensitivity to the energy of a place, a concept that leads us to the very ground beneath our feet. Ancient builders perceived the earth itself as a living, breathing entity, crisscrossed with invisible pathways of power. This belief, known as Geomancy, guided their most crucial decision where to place their eternal monuments. The location was never arbitrary. It was the most important verse in the entire song. A site might be chosen for its position along what are often called ley lines, hypothetical straight lines that are said to connect ancient sacred sites across vast distances. Others were built directly over powerful geological features like underground water springs, magnetic anomalies, or specific mineral deposits. The goal was to tap into these natural telluric currents, the Earth's own subtle energies, and use the architecture to amplify them. Think of the structure not as a standalone building, but as a lens, focusing the innate power of the location into a concentrated spiritual beacon. This explains why immense effort was expended to build in seemingly illogical or incredibly remote places. The builders were not just working with stone, they were collaborating with the landscape. The great cathedral of Chartres in France, for instance, was constructed over an ancient sacred well, a site of pagan veneration long before Christianity. Its labyrinthine floor pattern and precise geometry are believed by many to channel the terrestrial energies of that specific spot. In the Andes, the Incas built Machu Picchu high on a mountain ridge, not just for defense, but to align the city with the surrounding sacred peaks or apus, which they considered powerful deities. The entire city becomes a connector, a point of dialogue between the human realm and the spirit of the mountains. This principle transforms our understanding of these monuments. They are not merely on the land, they are of the land. The song of the stones becomes a duet, a harmonious exchange between human intention and the living pulse of the earth. This animistic worldview, which saw spirit in every mountain, river, and stone, meant that building was a sacred act of partnership. By understanding geomancy, we see that the message encoded in these sites is not just about the stars above or the geometry within. It is a love letter to the Earth itself, a testament to a time when humanity felt deeply interconnected with the planet's invisible rhythms. If these sites are nodes in a global network of energy, what does that network look like from a wider perspective, and what might it tell us about our shared ancient past? Yet the most profound messages carved in stone were often directed not at the gods, but at the people living in their shadow. These structures were masterpieces of social engineering, transforming abstract authority into an overwhelming physical reality. The sheer scale of a pyramid or a ziggurat was not just an architectural achievement. It was a deliberate psychological instrument, a ballad of power sung in a language of immense weight and height. When a common farmer looked up at a structure that took thousands of men-generations to build, the message was unmistakable. The ruler who commanded such a project possessed a power that was almost divine, a force of nature itself. This was the ultimate political statement, written in granite and limestone for all to see. Consider the enigmatic Moai of Easter Island. These brooding giants with their stern, elongated faces were not placed randomly. They were arranged on massive stone platforms called ahu, which served as ceremonial centers for competing clans. Each Moai represented a deified ancestor, and the size and grandeur of your clan's statues were a direct reflection of your status, wealth, and power on the island. Erecting a larger Moai than your neighbors was a form of one-upmanship, a silent but thunderous declaration of superiority that dominated the landscape. The song of these stones was a competitive chant, a chronicle of social rivalry carved from volcanic rock. In Mesopotamia, the ziggurat took this concept of elevated authority to its logical conclusion. These massive stepped temples were literal stairways to heaven, but they were not for public use. Only the priests and the king were permitted to ascend its tiers, moving further away from the common people and closer to the realm of the gods with every step. This physical elevation was a powerful metaphor. It visually demonstrated that the ruling class had a unique, exclusive line to the divine. Their power was not just political. It was sanctioned by the cosmos. By building a ziggurat, a king was not merely constructing a temple. He was building the very hierarchy of his society into the skyline, placing himself and his priests at the pinnacle. The logistics of construction tell another crucial part of this story. Mobilizing a workforce of thousands, feeding them, housing them, and organizing their labor required a staggering level of social organization and economic surplus. A society that could divert so much human energy from farming or defense was proclaiming its stability and wealth. The monument itself became proof of a complex, stratified society with a ruling elite capable of grand projects. For the population, participating in the build, whether willingly or through obligation, fostered a shared identity and a sense of collective purpose. The Song of the Stone is therefore also a census record and an economic report. It speaks of granaries full enough to feed non-farmers, of administrators skilled enough to manage complex logistics, and of a social contract, however unequal, that could mobilize a civilization. The stones bear witness not only to the power of the ruler but to the organized strength of the society he ruled. What does it mean, then, when we find these same principles of power echoing across continents, among cultures that could never have met? Stonehenge rises from the Salisbury Plain as a masterwork of silent communication, a symphony composed of 80 massive stones. Its language is not written in carvings but in the very arrangement of its pillars and lintels. The most famous verse in its song is the solar alignment. At dawn on the summer solstice, the sun rises directly over the heel stone. its rays piercing the heart of the circle in a breathtaking display of celestial engineering. This was not just a marker of the longest day, it was a profound communal event, a guarantee from the architects that the cosmic order was intact, that the sun would return and the seasons would turn as they always had. The circle itself functions as a permanent calendar, its geometry tracking the sun's yearly journey with stone-solid reliability. Yet the stones themselves tell another story, one of incredible journey and sacred geography. The smaller blue stones that form the inner circle were hauled over 150 miles from the Preseli Hills in Wales. This was not a practical decision. Transporting these multi-ton stones across rivers and mountains was a monumental act of devotion. It suggests the builders believed the stones themselves were inherently powerful, that they carried the spirit of that distant, sacred landscape. The monument is not just placed on the plain, it physically connects the plain to a mythic point of origin, weaving a tale of pilgrimage and territorial identity into its very foundation. The Song of Stonehenge also resonates in a dimension beyond sight, in the realm of sound. Recent acoustic studies reveal that the original complete circle, with its massive lintels capping the uprights, would have created a unique sonic environment. The stones acted as a sound barrier, dampening noises from the outside world while containing and reflecting sounds within the circle. This would have transformed the space into an intimate amphitheater, isolating participants from the distractions of the plain and focusing their attention entirely on the ritual at hand. The spoken word or rhythmic chanting would have taken on a powerful, enclosed quality, making the ceremony feel separate from the ordinary world, a direct conversation with the cosmos. By combining celestial alignment, sacred material, and controlled acoustics, the Neolithic builders created a multi-sensory instrument. The absence of obvious carvings forces us to listen to this more abstract language. It is a composition where astronomy is the melody, geology is the rhythm, and geometry is the harmony. Decoding Stonehenge is not about finding a single message but appreciating the sophistication of the Neolithic mind, a culture that expressed its deepest understanding of the world through a grand, silent orchestra of stone. If this solitary circle on a British plain speaks so eloquently, what stories await where monuments gather in even greater numbers? Rising from the desert sands, the pyramids of Giza are the ultimate expression of stone's silent language. While Stonehenge speaks in circles and alignments, Giza composes an epic in 3 parts, a saga of cosmic ambition carved from millions of tons of limestone and granite. This is not merely a tomb complex, it is a carefully engineered portal, a machine designed to transform a mortal king into an eternal star. The most profound verse in this epic is written across the night sky. The 3 main pyramids are arranged on the ground in a pattern that mirrors the 3 stars of Orion's belt. For the ancient Egyptians, the constellation of Orion was the celestial home of Osiris, the god of the afterlife and rebirth. By duplicating this sacred pattern on Earth, the builders were creating a permanent, indestructible anchor, a divine resonance between the earthly and the heavenly. They were ensuring that the soul of the pharaoh housed within the pyramid would have a direct pathway to join the imperishable stars, to live forever in the cosmic realm. This celestial mapping extends inside the structures themselves. The narrow shafts leading from the king's chamber in the Great Pyramid were not air vents. They were precisely angled sightlines, one pointing toward the North Polar stars, which never set, symbolizing eternal constancy, and the other aimed directly at Orion's belt. During the pharaoh's funeral rites, his soul was believed to travel up these shafts, guided by the light of the very stars the pyramid mirrored on the ground. Every architectural decision was a navigational aid for an immortal journey. Yet the Song of the Pyramids is not only one of spiritual transcendence. It is also a thunderous ballad of raw, earthly power. The sheer, staggering scale of the Great Pyramid, built from over 2 million blocks, each weighing several tons, was a message to every subject and rival kingdom. It proclaimed a pharaoh's authority as absolute, his command over human and material resources so complete that he could literally move mountains. The perfectly smooth, gleaming white casing stones that once covered the structure, reflecting the brutal sun, would have made it visible for miles, a man-made mountain of light. This was the ultimate political statement, a declaration of power so overwhelming it needed no written explanation. The absence of hieroglyphic texts on the exterior is, in fact, the most telling part of the message. The builders did not need to write their intentions on the walls. The form itself was the text. The perfect square base, aligned to the cardinal directions with near-flawless precision, spoke of a world in perfect order, a cosmos in miniature. The 4 sloping sides, meeting at a single point high above the earth, recreated the primordial mound of creation from which the sun god first emerged. The pyramid was not a building. It was a symbol of the entire universe, and the pharaoh was placed at its very center. To stand before it is to feel the weight of that ambition, to hear the silent, overwhelming song of eternity, divinity, and a royal ambition so vast it has captivated humanity for thousands of years. But if these colossal structures represent a pinnacle of centralized power, what stories are told by the countless smaller, more enigmatic stones scattered across the globe, whose builders left no names and built no empires? Far to the east, on the most isolated inhabited island on Earth, a different kind of stone song echoes across the grassy slopes. The Moai of Rapa Nui, or Easter Island, stand as silent sentinels, their song a complex and haunting melody of clan identity, ancestral power, and a profound ecological warning. Unlike the pyramids directed at the stars, these colossal figures turn their backs to the sea, their enormous, stern faces gazing intently inland, watching over the living. This was their primary verse, a song of lineage and protection. Each Moai was not merely a statue, but the permanent embodiment of a deified ancestor. By carving these giants, a clan was making its history visible and formidable, planting its claim to the land in the most undeniable terms. The ancestors were not gone, they were present, their stone eyes ensuring the prosperity and order of their descendants. The second, more astonishing verse in this song is one of breathtaking ingenuity. With no metal tools and no beasts of burden, the islanders carved these multi-ton figures directly from the volcanic rock of the Rano-Raraku quarry. Using stone hand picks, they painstakingly freed the Moai from the mountainside. Then came the incredible feat of transportation. How did they move these giants, some weighing over 80 tons, for miles across rolling terrain? Oral traditions and modern experiments suggest they were walked upright, rocked and swayed forward with a system of ropes in a slow, rhythmic procession that must have been a spectacle of communal effort. This process itself was a powerful social ritual, a unifying act that bound the community together in a shared, monumental task. Yet this song of unity contains a tragic, discordant note. The very act of creation placed an immense strain on the island's limited resources. The demand for wood for rollers and ropes, and for food to sustain the large workforces, is believed to have contributed to severe deforestation. The Song of the Moai, therefore, has a crucial environmental subtext. It is a story of a society pushing its environment to the absolute limit in the service of its cultural ambitions. This leads to the song's final, violent stanza. When European explorers first arrived in the 18th century, they found a landscape in chaos. Many of the magnificent Moai had been deliberately toppled, lying face down with their massive red topknots or pukao scattered nearby. This was not the work of outsiders, it was an act of internal rebellion. As resources grew scarce and clan rivalries intensified, the symbols of ancestral power became targets. Toppling a rival clan's Moai was the ultimate act of defiance, a way to break their spiritual connection to the land and assert dominance. The silent sentinels, once protectors, became casualties of a conflict born from the depletion of the very world they were built to safeguard. Decoding the Moai, then, requires listening to this full, tragic symphony. They are not just monuments to the dead, but powerful, eternal symbols of the delicate balance between human ambition and the health of the planet that sustains it. Their silent gaze is a sobering reminder from the past. High on the arid plains of southern Peru, an entirely different kind of song is etched into the earth, a composition written on a scale so vast it defies human perspective. The Nazca Lines are not structures you can walk through or touch. They are geoglyphs, gigantic drawings created by the simple, yet monumental, act of removing the dark, sun-baked surface stones to reveal the lighter-colored soil beneath. This technique created stark, contrasting lines that have endured for centuries, but their true mystery lies not in their construction, but in their intended audience. These sprawling images of a hummingbird, a spider, a monkey, and perfect geometric spirals are invisible from the ground. They only resolve into coherent, breathtaking forms when viewed from high above the desert floor. This fundamental fact transforms their entire meaning. The Song of the Nazca is a hymn sung exclusively for the gods, in a landscape defined by its stark dryness, where water was the difference between life and death. These drawings were likely a form of desperate and hopeful communication. The hummingbird, a creature of incredible energy and vitality, or the spider, connected to rain and fertility in many Andean myths, were not random choices. They were powerful symbols, pleas to celestial deities for the most precious resource, water. The act of creating them was a communal ritual in itself. Hundreds, perhaps thousands, of people working in concert to scrape these massive figures into the earth, their collective labor a physical prayer for survival. The song was not just the final image, but the entire process of devotion. This leads to a profound question about the Nazca worldview. If the lines were meant to be seen from the sky, how did their creators, who lacked the power of flight, even conceive of them? The answer may lie in the shamanic traditions of the Andes. Shamans, or spiritual leaders, often entered trance states using natural plant medicines. In these altered states of consciousness, they believed their spirit could leave their body and fly, gaining a bird's eye view of the world and acting as intermediaries with the gods. From this perspective, the Nazca Lines become a prayer map, a landscape-sized message board designed for the shaman's spirit to navigate and for the gods to read directly. The straight lines might have been ritual pathways for these spiritual journeys, while the intricate animal figures were specific symbols to attract divine attention. This makes the Nazca geoglyphs a unique dialect in the global language of stone. While the pyramids reached for the stars and Stonehenge tracked the sun, the Nazca created a text that was fundamentally relational. It required a viewer from another realm to complete its meaning. They were not building a monument to their own power, but crafting a humble, giant-sized request to a higher power, written directly onto the skin of the earth. The silent, arid plain becomes a canvas for a conversation with the divine, a testament to human ingenuity fueled by the most basic need. If these lines are a message, what would the gods have seen when they looked down, and did they ever send a reply? When a civilization leaves no written manual, its myths become the decoder ring. For countless ancient sites, the only records are not carved in stone but carried on the breath of generations through oral tradition. These stories, often dismissed as simple folklore, are in fact a vast library of cultural memory. preserving the symbolic meaning of monuments long after their original purpose has faded from common knowledge. In Australia, the intricate song lines of Aboriginal Dreamtime stories do not just tell of creation, they map the landscape itself. A particular rock formation is not a random pile of stones, it is the petrified body of an ancestral being from the dreaming. The story explains its shape, its power, and its role in the cosmic order, transforming a geological feature into a chapter of a living, spiritual epic. This is not a metaphor to the traditional custodians of the land. It is a literal truth that connects them directly to their ancestors and the sacredness of place. Across the world in Ireland, the Great Passage Tomb of Newgrange is shrouded in legends of the Tuatha De Danann, a mythical race of god-like beings said to have built it. The folklore describes it as a burial mound and a place of otherworldly power, directly echoing the archaeological understanding of the site as a tomb connected to solar cycles and the afterlife. The myth provides the narrative that the stones themselves cannot speak. It answers the why, while archaeology uncovers the how. Treating these oral histories as mere fairy tales would be like discarding the key to a locked chest. They offer invaluable clues to the original intent, the emotional resonance, and the spiritual worldview that motivated the builders. Decoding the songs of stone, therefore, requires a collaboration between the trowel of the archaeologist and the stories of the elder. Scientific data can tell us when a structure was built and with what materials, but ethnography, the study of cultures, can suggest what it meant to the people who gathered there. The alignment of a doorway with the solstice sun is an astronomical fact, but the story of a sun god being reborn in that moment of light gives the alignment its profound cultural power. This partnership allows us to hear not just the architectural facts of the monument, but its soul. The next time you hear an ancient myth, listen closely. It might not be a fanciful story, but the faint, enduring echo of a stone song, waiting for someone to understand its words. The silent songs of the past are now being amplified by a technological chorus. For centuries, our understanding of ancient monuments was limited by what our eyes could see and our hands could measure. Now, a suite of powerful new tools is acting like a universal translator, allowing us to perceive the faintest whispers etched in stone. Light detection and ranging, or LiDAR, is perhaps the most dramatic of these innovations. Mounted on aircraft, it fires millions of laser pulses at the ground, piercing dense jungle canopies to map the terrain with astonishing precision. In the rainforests of Guatemala, this technology stripped away centuries of growth to reveal the true scale of the ancient Maya civilization, exposing vast, interconnected cities and thousands of previously unknown structures. In an instant, our perception of their world expanded exponentially, showing us that what we thought were isolated temples were actually the bustling centers of a much larger, more complex society. This is not just about finding new ruins, it is about understanding the full symphony of a civilization, from its grand plazas to its humble farmsteads. Once a site is identified, another tool takes over to capture its most intimate details. Three-dimensional laser scanning creates a perfect digital twin of a monument, capturing every crack, carving, and subtle curvature with millimeter accuracy. This virtual model allows archaeologists to study a site from every conceivable angle without ever touching the physical stone. They can measure alignments with a precision that tape measures could never achieve, analyze patterns of erosion to understand how water flowed across the structure over millennia, and even simulate the play of light and shadow during a solstice sunrise. It is like being given a pair of superhuman eyes that can see both the grand design and the most minuscule tool mark left by a worker thousands of years ago. But the story does not end at the surface. Ground-penetrating radar sends pulses of energy into the Earth, listening for the echoes that bounce back from hidden features. This allows researchers to map entire subterranean worlds without lifting a single shovel. It has revealed hidden burial chambers beneath stone circles, mapped the foundations of lost walls, and even identified ancient pathways now buried deep under farmland. Each of these technologies transforms subjective interpretation into data-driven analysis. What was once an educated guess about a celestial alignment can now be confirmed with mathematical certainty. A legend about a hidden chamber can be tested without risking damage to the monument itself. These tools are not replacing the romance of archaeology, they are deepening it. They are providing the hard evidence that allows the stories whispered by the stones to be heard with a new, undeniable clarity, opening chapters in ancient histories we never knew existed. The allure of a mystery can sometimes be more powerful than the evidence itself. When faced with the staggering scale of the pyramids or the precision of Puma Punku, it is tempting to reach for explanations that feel as grand as the monuments. This is the realm of alternative theories, where ancient astronauts and lost continents like Atlantis are offered as the true architects of our past. These ideas capture the public imagination because they speak to a sense of wonder, a feeling that the official story is somehow incomplete. And in a way, this skeptical impulse is a vital part of the decoding process. It forces established archaeology to defend its conclusions, to re-examine its assumptions, and to acknowledge the vast gaps that still exist in our understanding of the ancient world. The debate itself is a form of dialogue with the stones, a way of pushing against the boundaries of what we think we know. Yet this search for extraordinary answers carries a subtle but significant cost. To attribute the Great Pyramid to visitors from another star system is to quietly strip the ancient Egyptians of their genius. It suggests that humanity alone was incapable of such feats of engineering and astronomy. The same is true for theories of a single, hyper-advanced progenitor civilization like Atlantis, which often inadvertently minimizes the diverse and unique cultural achievements of societies across the globe. The real, documented story is often more compelling than the fiction. We know that the Egyptians developed sophisticated mathematics and a deep understanding of astronomy over centuries. We have evidence of their trial and error, their quarrying techniques, and their social organization. The true song of the pyramid is not a whisper about alien technology, but a roaring chorus of human collaboration, ingenuity, and spiritual belief. It is the story of thousands of workers aligning multi-ton blocks with nothing but copper tools, wooden sledges, and a profound knowledge of the stars. This achievement, born entirely from human hands and minds, is arguably more miraculous than any intervention from beyond the stars. Decoding the stones, then, requires a careful balance. We must remain open to new possibilities while respecting the mountain of evidence that celebrates the incredible capabilities of our ancestors. The greatest mystery may not be who helped them, but how they accomplished so much with the resources they had, leaving behind a song of stone that continues to challenge and inspire us. Yet this powerful new ability to listen comes with a profound duty. Decoding the songs of stone is not a passive act of observation. It is an active engagement with a fragile, finite inheritance. The very act of uncovering these secrets can sometimes place the monuments in greater peril. Millions of visitors, drawn by the allure of these ancient wonders, bring with them the corrosive effects of mass tourism. The moisture from 1,000 breaths can degrade delicate carvings inside a sealed tomb, while the constant tread of feet erodes stone pathways laid down millennia ago. Climate change presents an even more insidious threat, as rising sea levels lap at the foundations of coastal temples, and increasingly violent weather events batter structures that have stood for thousands of years. Each crack that forms is not just a physical flaw, it is a potential loss of a verse in an epic we are only beginning to understand. This responsibility extends beyond physical preservation into the realm of respect. For many indigenous communities around the world, these sites are not abandoned relics of a dead past. They are living churches, ancestral homes, and active touchstones to their cultural identity. To treat a sacred mountain or a ceremonial circle as merely an archaeological puzzle is to ignore its continuing spiritual significance. The process of decoding must be a collaboration, not a colonization. This means involving descendant communities from the very beginning, respecting their traditional knowledge as a vital source of interpretation, and acknowledging their sovereignty over their own heritage. A scientific measurement of a solstice alignment gains immeasurable depth when paired with an oral tradition that explains its meaning in the words of the people whose ancestors built it. Our goal must be to shift from being mere interpreters to becoming custodians. The song of the stone is a living thing, and our role is to ensure its voice is not silenced by neglect, exploitation, or well-intentioned but disrespectful intrusion. This means supporting conservation efforts that use the least invasive methods, advocating for sustainable tourism that limits human impact, and most importantly, listening to the communities for whom these stones still sing. The greatest translation of all may not be from stone to text, but from the past to the future, ensuring that these ancient messages of human ingenuity, spiritual belief, and connection to the cosmos continue to resonate for generations yet to come. What legacy will our own civilization leave behind, and what songs will our stones sing to those who listen thousands of years from now? These silent stone libraries speak to a part of us deeper than conscious thought. They resonate with archetypes, those universal symbols that psychologist Carl Jung believed are hardwired into the human psyche. The towering pyramid is the archetype of the sacred mountain, a bridge between earth and heaven. The perfect stone circle is a symbol of wholeness, eternity, and the cyclical nature of time. The labyrinthine passage inside a tomb is the archetypal journey into the underworld and back again. These are not just architectural shapes, they are the fundamental furniture of our collective dreams, and encountering them in physical form triggers a profound, almost primal recognition. This is why a child who has never heard of Jung or archetypes can still feel a sense of mystery and power when standing before a circle of ancient stones. The form itself communicates directly with the subconscious. This encounter often evokes a very specific and powerful emotion, awe. Awe is that humbling feeling we get in the face of something vast that transcends our current understanding of the world. Modern psychological research has shown that experiencing awe can have remarkable benefits. It can slow our perception of time, reduce feelings of stress, and make us more curious and open to new ideas. It literally expands our mental frameworks. When we stand dwarfed by the base of the Great Pyramid or gaze at the endless lines stretching across the Nazca Desert, our personal problems can momentarily shrink in perspective. We are reminded that we are part of a vast, mysterious, and wondrous world, a realization that is both humbling and strangely liberating. This emotional response is tied to another deep human need, the need for meaning. These monuments are tangible answers to the most fundamental questions we have always asked. Why are we here? What happens after we die? Is there a larger order to the universe? The pyramid, with its precise celestial alignments, asserts that yes, there is a cosmic order, and humanity has a place within it. The tomb, oriented to the winter solstice sunrise, proclaims that death is not an end but a transition, a rebirth. By engaging with these structures, we are not just solving an archaeological puzzle, we are participating in an ancient conversation about existence itself. The process of decoding their secrets, therefore, becomes a deeply personal quest. It satisfies a hunger for connection, not just to the past, but to something timeless. It makes us feel that our brief lives are part of a continuous human story, a grand narrative of striving, wonder, and the relentless pursuit of meaning. This is the ultimate power of the Songs of Stone. They do not just tell us about the past, they transform us in the present, offering a glimpse of eternity and reminding us that we, too, are part of the chorus. A profound question emerges from these global whispers. If the Songs of Stone are sung in such different cultural dialects, from the Moai of Easter Island to the geoglyphs of Nazca, why do so many of their core melodies sound the same? The answer lies in a comparative analysis that reveals a stunning truth about humanity itself. Across vast distances and thousands of years, separated by impassable oceans and unbreachable language barriers, ancient cultures independently arrived at the same powerful architectural symbols. One of the most universal is the concept of the axis mundi, the world axis. This is the idea of a central pillar or mountain that connects the earthly realm with the heavens above and the underworld below. The Pyramid of Giza, with its peak aimed at the celestial pole, is a perfect embodiment of this, but so too is a Native American burial mound, rising from the Great Plains as an artificial mountain creating a sacred connection point. Even the stepped pyramids of Mesopotamia, known as ziggurats, served as literal stairways for priests to ascend closer to the gods. The form may differ, but the intention is identical, to build a bridge between the human and the divine. The circle is another shared symbol that appears with remarkable consistency. From the stone circles of Europe to the circular kivas of the American Southwest, this shape represents wholeness, eternity, and the cyclical nature of life, death, and the seasons. It is a shape with no beginning and no end, perfectly suited for community gatherings that reinforced social bonds and for rituals that honored the endless cycles of time. The very act of gathering in a circle, facing one another, speaks to a deep, shared understanding of unity and equality that transcends cultural specifics. Furthermore, cultures around the globe used their monuments as massive calendars, obsessively tracking the sun, moon, and stars. Chinese letter alignments of Stonehenge for the solstices find a direct parallel in the Sun Dagger site in New Mexico, where a sliver of sunlight pierces a spiral petroglyph on the summer solstice. This was not a coincidence. It was a shared, vital response to the human need to understand time, to predict the seasons for agriculture, and to anchor their lives to the reliable rhythms of the cosmos. The emergence of these same themes, the axis mundi, the sacred circle, and the celestial calendar, points to something fundamental in the human psyche. It suggests that our ancestors, regardless of where they lived, were grappling with the same great mysteries. What is our place in the universe? What happens after we die? How do we ensure the continuity of our community and the return of the sun? They used the most permanent material available to them, stone, to seek answers to these universal questions. This is not evidence of a lost global civilization, but rather of a shared human consciousness. It reveals a global conversation happening across millennia, a symphony of inquiry where each culture contributed its own unique verse, but all were humming the same timeless tune. Recognizing these universal themes does not erase cultural differences. It highlights our fundamental unity. It allows us to see that the drive to create meaning, to reach for the heavens, and to leave a mark that echoes through time is a defining trait of our species. The faint whispers of the past are about to find a powerful new amplifier. artificial intelligence is poised to become the next great translator of the songs of stone, capable of listening to 1,000,000 monuments at once. Unlike a human researcher who can study one site or a handful of related ones in a lifetime, an AI algorithm can ingest a colossal dataset containing the precise measurements, celestial orientations, and symbolic motifs from thousands of ancient structures across every continent. It can then search for hidden patterns, subtle correlations that have eluded us for centuries. Imagine an AI discovering that a specific geometric ratio used in a temple in Cambodia also appears in a tomb complex in Peru, and that both sites are aligned to the same rare star cluster. Such a connection, invisible to any single scholar, could rewrite our understanding of ancient cultural exchange or, more profoundly, point to a universal principle of sacred design. This is the power of machine-aided discovery, not to replace the archaeologist's intuition, but to supercharge it with a godlike capacity for pattern recognition. Beyond mere analysis, predictive modeling offers a form of digital time travel. For a monument that has been badly damaged by earthquakes or looters, an AI could be fed all known data about its construction style, its original location, and similar intact structures. From this, it could generate a statistically probable digital reconstruction, allowing us to walk through a virtual version of the building as it once stood. We could see the sunlight stream through a doorway that collapsed 1,000 years ago, or hear how sound would have echoed in a chamber now filled with rubble. This technology can also tackle the great unanswered questions by cross-referencing archaeological data with vast databases on ancient climate, soil composition, and even the migration patterns of languages. An AI could propose the most likely purpose for an enigmatic ruin. Why was this particular hilltop chosen for a fortress? The AI might correlate its findings to reveal that the site was not just defensible, but also lay at the intersection of two ancient trade routes and had a unique freshwater spring, painting a holistic picture of strategic necessity. This approach composes a far richer symphony of the past, where the stone monument is just one instrument in an orchestra that includes the land itself, the climate, and the people. The goal is not for cold logic to override human interpretation, but to provide a formidable new set of tools that can hear the most elusive notes, allowing us to piece together the grand opus of ancient human genius with a clarity we have never before possessed. This universal language of stone is not locked away for scholars alone. Its melody is accessible to anyone willing to learn a few simple steps in active listening. You can begin this practice on your very next visit to an ancient site, transforming a simple walk among ruins into a profound conversation. The first step is to shift from passive sightseeing to engaged observation. Before you even look at the structure itself, take in its placement on the landscape. Why is it here? Is it perched on a commanding hilltop, suggesting a need for defense or a closer connection to the sky? Is it nestled in a valley near a water source, speaking to the practicalities of life or the sacredness of a spring? Does the entrance frame a specific mountain peak or a point on the horizon? These are not random choices. They are the first verses of the site's song, telling you what the builders valued about this exact spot. Next, become aware of the light. If you can, visit at different times of day, especially at dawn or dusk. Watch how the sunlight moves across the stones. Does a specific shadow fall across a carving or doorway at a particular hour? During the equinoxes or solstices, if your timing is fortunate, you might witness a dramatic alignment where light penetrates a passageway or illuminates a sacred symbol. This celestial interaction was often the monument's primary purpose, a way to mark time and connect with the cosmos. You can also engage your sense of sound. Find a quiet space within the structure, clap your hands once or speak in a low tone. Listen carefully to the echo. Does the sound reverberate, creating a sense of grandeur, or is it absorbed, fostering an atmosphere of intimate silence? Some sites, as we have explored, were designed as acoustic chambers, and your own voice can help you rediscover that ancient engineering. Then move closer and read the stones like a text. Look for patterns, repetitions, and any carvings. Are there spirals, zigzags, or animal figures? Even if you do not know their precise meaning, their presence is a clue. Repetition of a symbol often indicates its importance. Notice the texture of the rock itself. Was it shaped with immense care or left more rough and natural? This tells you about the intended function of the space, whether it was for exclusive ritual or communal gathering. A small amount of preparation can greatly enrich this experience. Before you go, spend a little time researching the basic mythology and astronomy of the culture that built the monument. Knowing that a culture worshipped a sun god will make you look for solar alignments. Understanding that they believed in an underworld will give context to a descending staircase or a dark, enclosed chamber. By engaging all your senses and bringing a curious mind, you cease to be just a visitor. You become a participant in an ancient dialogue. The monument is no longer a silent collection of rocks, but a complex composition of location, light, sound, and symbol. You start to hear its unique voice, and in doing so, you connect across the centuries with the human hands and minds that placed it there. This transforms a tourist snapshot into a lasting memory, a moment where you truly heard the song of stone. To truly hear the authentic song of the stone, we must first silence the persistent whispers of modern myth. A common and enduring image is that of the pyramids being raised by armies of whipped slaves, a narrative popularized by Hollywood and ancient Greek historians with their own biases. However, the archaeological evidence tells a different, more human story. The remains of workers' villages near Giza reveal not slave quarters, but comfortable accommodations with bakeries, hospitals, and even graves showing signs of medical care for injuries sustained on the job. These were not slaves, but highly skilled, seasonal laborers, farmers who worked on the Pharaoh's project when the Nile's floodwaters covered their fields. They were paid in bread, beer, and other goods, participating in a national project that was as much a religious duty as an economic one. This correction does not diminish the achievement, it elevates it. It reveals a society capable of organizing and sustaining a vast, skilled workforce, a feat of social engineering as impressive as the architectural one. Another frequent misconception attributes the impossible precision of ancient stonework to lost technologies or even extraterrestrial tools. The sight of multi-ton blocks fitted together with seams thinner than a credit card can feel inexplicable. Yet, patient experimental archaeology has demonstrated that the primary tools were remarkably simple, just stone hammers, copper chisels, sand for abrasion, and an immense amount of time and skill. The secret was not a mysterious laser or sonic tool, but a profound understanding of the materials and relentless, generations-long dedication. A stonemason would spend days, perhaps weeks, slowly shaping a single block, testing the fit over and over, using a slurry of colored paste to reveal high spots until a perfect seal was achieved. This was not magic, it was the culmination of a lifetime of mastered craft, passed from father to son. The real marvel is not a lost technology, but the sheer human patience and skill that such a society could cultivate and apply. We must also be cautious not to overinterpret the celestial alignments we so eagerly seek. While the grand solstice alignments at places like Newgrange and Stonehenge are undeniable, the desire to find complex star maps in every ancient structure can lead us astray. Not every corridor points to a specific star, and not every grouping of stones is an exact replica of a constellation. Many alignments are far more practical, marking the simple, vital solar events that governed agricultural life, the rising of the sun at the equinox or the setting of the full moon at a key time of year. Attributing overly elaborate astronomical blueprints to every site risks missing the simpler, more profound truth that these builders were first and foremost deeply connected to the basic cycles that sustained their communities. By clearing away these layers of misconception, we do not make the past less interesting. We make it more real. We replace fantasy with the far more compelling story of human ingenuity, cooperation, and a profound connection to the world. We allow the true voice of the ancients, a voice of skill and patience, to rise clearly above the noise of modern speculation. No single expert holds the key to unlocking these ancient messages. The true translation emerges only when different disciplines speak to one another, when the astronomer's star chart is laid over the art historian's interpretation of a carved symbol. A geologist can identify that the blue stones of Stonehenge came from the Preseli Hills in Wales, but it is the anthropologist, drawing on studies of traditional societies, who can suggest why. They might propose that the stones themselves were considered sacred, possessing a spiritual power from that distant landscape that the builders felt was essential to bring to their ceremonial center. This transforms a simple fact of geology into a profound narrative of pilgrimage and belief. An acoustic physicist can measure the resonant frequency inside an ancient chamber, demonstrating that a specific chant would create a powerful reverberation. But it is the archaeologist of religion who can connect that physical sensation to descriptions of shamanic journeys in oral traditions, interpreting the sound as a technological aid for achieving an altered state of consciousness. The hard data from the scientist gives weight to the cultural interpretation from the humanist, and vice versa. Without this collaboration, we are left with incomplete fragments. An engineer might explain precisely how the Egyptians moved a 2-ton block, but without a historian's knowledge of their social structure and religious beliefs, we miss the deeper meaning of why they would undertake such a monumental task. The stones become a mere engineering puzzle, their souls stripped away. This fusion of science and the humanities is the modern equivalent of the ancient builders' own holistic worldview. They did not separate astronomy from religion or engineering from art. Their construction was a single, unified act of cosmic and earthly order. To truly hear their song, we must reassemble that unity, listening with both the calibrated instruments of science and the empathetic understanding of the human spirit. The future of decoding these mysteries lies not in solitary genius, but in a symphony of expertise. Ultimately, the monuments we choose to study and the mysteries we seek to solve reveal the contours of our own modern soul. When one researcher is captivated by the celestial alignments of a pyramid, and another is drawn to the acoustic properties of an underground temple, their focus reflects a personal quest. The astronomer seeks order in the cosmos, while the musician searches for harmony in vibration. Our interpretation becomes a conversation across time, where we ask the stones the questions that matter most to us, and in their silent response, we find a reflection of our deepest yearnings for connection, understanding, and purpose. This dialogue challenges one of our most fundamental assumptions, the linear notion of progress. To stand before the Great Pyramid and comprehend the mathematical and astronomical knowledge encoded in its form is to understand that ancient does not mean primitive. These were not superstitious people groping in the dark. They were sophisticated scientists, engineers, and philosophers whose intellectual achievements, achieved without our modern tools, can still leave us humbled. Their legacy is a powerful reminder that human genius is not a product of any specific era, but a constant flame that has burned brightly across the millennia. This realization fosters a necessary humility. We see the rise and fall of civilizations written into the landscape, the mighty empire that carved its glory into a mountain now silent, its language forgotten. It forces us to confront the fragility of our own complex world and asks what, if anything, of our digital age will remain for future decoders to discover. The process of listening to the stones is in itself a teacher of virtues our fast-paced world often neglects. It demands patience, rewarding those who observe the slow dance of light across a stone at the equinox. It requires careful observation, noticing the subtle wear pattern on a threshold that suggests centuries of footfall. Most of all, it cultivates an open-mindedness, a willingness to set aside our preconceptions and let the monument speak in its own unique language. By learning this slow, attentive form of engagement, we begin to appreciate more than just history. We develop a profound respect for human creativity and resilience, for the universal drive to create something beautiful, something meaningful, something that whispers, "I was here." The Song of the Stone is ultimately a song about us, about our shared need to leave a mark, to speak to the future, and to find our small, significant place in a vast and mysterious universe. It is a deeply personal and transformative practice that changes not only how we see the past, but how we choose to live in the present. These ancient compositions are far more than historical artifacts. They are a timeless legacy, a chorus of countless voices from our collective past that continue to whisper their secrets to anyone willing to listen. We have journeyed together, exploring the grammar of this silent language. We have seen how celestial alignments anchor human ambition to the cosmos, how sacred geometry composes a visual music of perfect proportions, and how intricate symbols carve direct narratives into the rock. We have felt the physical vibration of Archaeoacoustics and understood the profound pull of the Earth's own energy. From the solar chorus of Stonehenge to the divine petitions of the Nazca Lines, from the cosmic ambition of Giza to the ecological warning of the Moai, each monument sings its own unique verse in this global epic. This journey of decoding, amplified by modern technology and guided by ethical responsibility, reveals that the process is as much about self-discovery as it is about history. In seeking to understand these builders, we inevitably confront our own place in the grand narrative of humanity. These stones remind us of the incredible capacity of the human spirit to create beauty, to seek profound understanding, and to forge a connection that can shout across the millennia. The song they began is not finished. With every new discovery, with every fresh perspective, we add a new verse to this ongoing symphony. I would love to know which ancient monument's song resonates most deeply with you. Share your thoughts in the comments below. If this journey into the silent language of the past has inspired you to listen more closely to the world around you, subscribe for more explorations into history's greatest mysteries. Keep listening, for the stones still have so much to say.